Hey guys, welcome back to the Friday Vlog, where we discuss activity that goes on here with the BuzWeaver channel. That includes things like current events, headlines that are in the news, pop culture, social media, technology, and items of interest that come up during the week that allow us to have a little bit of a dialogue. If this is your very first time here to the channel, welcome. If you're watching this on BitChute, Rumble, or Odyssey, I want to thank all of you guys for your most recent support, and of course all of you here on YouTube. You guys have been amazing. I want to thank all of you guys for your continued support.
So we start things off with a little something different today. I wanted to show you the Google Trends, what's currently apparently important that everyone is looking for and trying to pay attention to here based on Google Trends. As you can see, Scarlett Johansson, Sean Locke, Maria, the Polish javelin thrower, Nissan Z, and Carrie Underwood. These are your top headings, and this is from yesterday. Greg Abbott, Tim Tebow, the Caldor Fire, Britney Spears, Tornado Watch, Chris Bassett, and Jay Pickett. This is what people seem to be looking for in a world where a country that took allies 20 years to try to secure and build a new kind of infrastructure, help people out, do the hearts and minds to kind of bring some sort of social order to a Middle Eastern country, was lost in a matter of a week and the capital taken within 72 hours. Here's what's extraordinary. From the New York Post, Taliban leader was freed from Guantanamo Bay in 2014, swap by Obama. So here we have a individual who was held at Guantanamo Bay, or Guantanamo Bay for all my Spanish-speaking people, who was out and the head person to help take over Kabul. And it's interesting because the UK had the same issue where certain individuals they had released were just coming back and creating more chaos and disorder in their country. And, not surprising to anyone, from the New York Post as well, Twitter says Taliban can stay on platform if they obey rules. They obey the rules. A group of individuals, some of them released from Guantanamo Bay, taking over a country, and they will be expressing their ideologies, philosophies, and worldview among the populace, if you understand my meaning, because I've had to battle with YouTube for every single video that I posted this week. If you guys haven't checked it out, go to my main channel page here on YouTube, or if you're following on Alt Tech, or I should say additional video hosting sites, we're changing the language there, you will see the additional videos that I put out this week concerning the Taliban. And I've had to go through appeals, I've had to go through back and forth with YouTube. They demonetize, remonetize, demonetize. President Trump came out and probably gave an extraordinary interview with Sean Hannity where he expressed all the concerns that all of us had that the administration and the media is simply not saying out loud. We know what's going on behind our backs because we saw a recording, a leaked recording earlier this week from one of the administrators there who is head of the border come out and say that they were out of control. And I didn't bring that information up, but don't you find it interesting that Twitter will allow the Taliban to stay on their platform with their inciting actual terrorists identified by the UN and the world as terrorists can stay on Twitter, but President Trump is banned. I paused. Nope, you didn't lose sound. And to make it even more interesting, I saw this trending, and it's still trending because they're going to continue to allow this to trend because they can't have their establishment-appointed surrogate President Joe Biden looking bad. So here we have it. If Trump were reinstated, Sesame Street would have the letter of the day as Q every day. And it's just insult after Trump, insult after Trump, insult after Trump. The Capitol riots, individuals making jokes, just constantly making jokes. Instead of focusing on the real issue, this is what the left does. Here is your left. here is the group of people here are the groups of people that were given the inch because they couldn't psychologically or emotionally reconcile that President Trump was the duly elected president. Here they are on full display, mocking, jeering, snarking, insulting, being condescending, trying to associate any sort of disparity, any sort of undermining, any sort of insult to someone who's been banned off their platform. But according to Twitter, the Taliban, they're all good. They can stay on the platform. Now, here on Twitter, at least we see a leader of the world, or in the world, making a reasonable, rational, cogent comment. We have an enduring commitment to the Afghan people, and we will honor it. A new resettlement scheme will create a safe and legal route for those in most need to come and live safely in the UK. Now, of course, they have to get out of Kabul first. But nonetheless, here's Boris Johnson coming out and making a statement early this morning, our time here in the States at 3:04 a.m., our time here in the States, or my time. Yet nothing from Joe Biden. Joe Biden is actually back on vacation, if you guys were wondering. And so is Jill. And so is Jen Psaki. A little shift in news. Carli Lloyd, Team USA soccer player. Actually, she's the captain of the team. Carli Lloyd, Team USA soccer player, resigns after splitting with teammates in anthem protest. As a matter of fact, there was a few shots, I think, during the Olympics where she was the only person standing. The whole entire team was kneeling. The opponent teams, I don't recall whether they were kneeling or not. I just remember in the one shot, I think they were playing the Netherlands again. The Netherlands weren't kneeling. Only the Americans were kneeling. And I'm kind of curious about this whole masking and vaxxing and all the things that are going on, what Colorado Baker Jack Phillips is going through. Because Jack Phillips, at least for the last 7 years, has been dealing with lawsuits. And yet here's another one that he's dealing with here, where a private business who is willing to sell any of his goods to anyone who wants to come in and buy his goods, the stipulation here is what they want him to write on the goods or write on the cakes. It isn't the cakes. Jack has said this a million times. If you want to come into my store and buy a cake, he's not concerned about your affiliation, your ideology, your philosophy, your worldview. If you want to buy in, come in and buy one of his products, one of his pastries, you are welcome to do so. These individuals, by the way, side note, these individuals knew his convictions, knew he was a Christian individual, and were doing this on purpose. In other words, they were antagonizing him on purpose. So we have another individual who's doing a gender reveal, doing this on purpose. It's one thing if you're walking through a particular neighborhood, maybe you're not familiar with the store, and you go in and have something done, and then you're presented with the information that I will not write something on your pastry because of my constitutional rights and so forth and so on. So these individuals know the situation. We know the Supreme Court ruling in the original one where the Supreme Court outlined that Jack was being badgered, being insulted, being intentionally pursued and harassed, essentially. And so we have yet another appeals ruling on this gender transition cake. So here we are with all of this masking and necessary vaccines, particularly in New York. De Blasio just came out with signed an executive order saying that people needed to be vaccinated to be able to participate in house dining and or restaurant activity. But of course, you're still going to need your ID if you're going to purchase alcohol. So it's one thing when they say it's oppressive to have ID if you want to vote, but you have to have your vax card, you have to have immunization information. He didn't mention whether or not you had to have a card that demonstrated that you weren't COVID infected, but I do have something from my Facebook from Dragon Con, which is a sci-fi convention here in Atlanta, which will be taking place here, I think, this next weekend. And they kind of shifted their gears last minute. I saw the post the other day where they said due to the Delta variant and breakthroughs. Breakthroughs is a weasel word for individuals who are sick or have died after they have gotten the vaccine, or they have actually died from COVID, I should say, more specifically. That data is very hard to find. I spent several hours yesterday just trying to find that information. Now, some of you may recall from several weeks ago, or actually, well, I should say probably a year ago, This particular medical writing from Johns Hopkins University newsletter from this doctor, Genevieve Bryand, who wrote this article where she outlined essentially, and I believe I can read some of it, where she basically was saying that there wasn't any significant increase right here. To answer the question, Brianne shifted her focus to the deaths per causes ranging from 2014 to 2020. There is a sudden increase in deaths in 2020 due to COVID-19. This is no surprise because COVID-19 emerged in the U.S. early 2020, and thus COVID-19 related to deaths increased drastically afterwards. Analysis of deaths per case in 2018 revealed that the pattern of seasonal increase in the total number of deaths is a result of the rise in deaths by all causes, not just COVID, while the top three being heart disease, respiratory disease, influenza, and pneumonia. But essentially what she was arriving at was that there didn't appear to be any additional increase in deaths. Brianne also noted that 50 to 70,000 deaths are seen both before and after COVID-19, indicating that this number of deaths was normal long before COVID-19 emerged. Therefore, according to Brianne, not only have C-19 had no effect on the percentage of deaths of older people, but it has also not increased the total number of deaths. So my apologies for my jumping around a bit on that, and but you see the information that was concerning here, right? So I want you to look at this. This is the original article. It's in the Wayback Machine. It is archived because going to the original link will produce this 4 paragraphs of basically a disclaimer to Dr. Brianne's work. Editor's note: after the newsletter published this article on November the 22nd, 2020, it was brought to our attention by the establishment that our coverage of Genevieve Brianne's presentation, COVID-19 Deaths, a look at U.S. data, has been used to support dangerous inaccuracies that minimize the impact of the pandemic. We decided on November 26th to retract this article to stop the spread of misinformation. She gave you data points. She gave you data points from the CDC. So, it is a clear, intentional action. A clear, intentional action, even by Google. If you try to look up some of this information on Google, you will not find it. Let me give you an example. The other day, I was trying to find the medical examiner's report from the Capitol 6th incident where the officers died. You cannot find that data on Google. I had to go to DuckDuckGo to find it. My first search on DuckDuckGo produced 6 different articles with the exact medical examiner's information that I was looking for. On Google, all you got was Officer Sicknick. That's all you got was one officer. And of course, they had to kind of retract that information because, of course, people said that he was the one that was injured by being blunt force trauma to the head, when we know that it was actually a different officer who was actually wearing a helmet that was struck by a fire extinguisher. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the world we live in. The establishment will allow a Taliban group and leaders, some of them released from Guantanamo Bay, to be on Twitter, to be influencing in our social media. China does the same thing, although they don't allow their citizens to do it. And here we are. We have an establishment willing to change data on research done by a medical professional based on CDC data. Boris Johnson comes out, shows a little bit of leadership. Joe Biden, nowhere. And what we're left with is a bunch of people on Twitter mocking and making fun of President Trump. No, you see anything here on Joe Biden? You see anything here on Joe Biden? Let me refresh it. Nothing. If Trump were reinstated, 19th Amendment, nothing on Joe Biden. Well, actually here. Well, This is just a mocking. This is just them mocking as they show the establishment appointed Joe Biden being confirmed and his inauguration. But you see, nothing on the actual problems that are going on in our country. And people are wondering, so who is creating the divide? I ask you guys down in the comments. Be sure to let me know. Who's creating the divide? All right, guys. So that's what I have for you this week.
All right, guys. So that's going to wrap it up for this Friday vlog. Thank you for the likes, the shares, and the comments. Below this video, you will find the various social media sites that I belong to that you guys can follow me on because I do daily postings. Thanks to all of you who have watched some of the more frequent videos that I have put out, particularly during the most recent of current events. As well as I know I do some video shorts and I sometimes try to remember to uncheck to notify you guys because I'm going to be pushing a lot more of the video shorts. I think they have done an amazing job for traffic to the channel, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that there are priority channels that YouTube has that we've talked about last week, for example, how they prioritize certain groups of creators, but mostly, mainstream media now. So if you look up information like what we're covering today on the Friday vlog, you'll probably have to go through a whole host of regular mainstream media. So I want to thank all of you guys for your continued support. When I say that, I actually mean it because it is true. And of course, you guys have just been fantastic. So again, thanks for the likes, the shares, and the comments. It all helps the channel, and I appreciate it. And all of you watching on the additional video hosting sites, BitChute, Odyssey, Rumble, thank you guys for all your support there as well. And of course, if you're here on YouTube, you guys have been fantastic carrying me through this whole time, and you guys have been around this whole time. Thank you. And appearing right there on the screen, that would be the channel icon to subscribe. You can click on that and subscribe, along with clicking notifications. That way you know when there's content here on the channel, as I do throughout the week. And I will see you guys right there behind that camera next week.